Welcome back to the Rise Above podcast. I'm your host, Will Lambley, and today we're so excited to be joined by Arkansas's football player development director, Danny Wheeler. First off, Danny, thanks for being on with us.
And thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And me and Danny were talking beforehand. We've known each other for, I guess, coming up on about 3 years now.
Yeah, about 3 years.
It was funny. That was my freshman year in August of 2021. I remember I started coming to football practice, and I didn't really know many people at the time, and obviously I couldn't see the people. But I remember every day this one guy would always come up to me and ask how I was doing. And after day, being blind, you get used to people's voices. And it turns out it was Danny.
That's right.
And that's something I always appreciate Danny for, because these past 3 years, anytime I come up to Arkansas football practice, he's always one of the first guys to greet me and just see how I'm doing. And I think that plays a big part of what you do now in your role with player development too.
Right, man. Look, just you coming around is a joy and inspiration in our lives. I enjoy every time I see you come around. I always talk to our freshmen every day about the willingness to never give up and to always move on and no excuses. So to see you come out to practice, man, it's always an inspiration to me to just understand that life is a blessing to us. And I'm excited about it every single day. So I always be like, Will, my guy.
Yeah.
So it's a joy. I really get a pleasure out you coming out, being a part of this team. And being around the team. So
yeah, that's something I always appreciate about you too. You always bring the energy too. And I think as you talked about with the freshmen, then obviously just bring the energy in life. I think that plays a big part of what you do now, being the director of player development. Mm-hmm. So what are some of your roles that you have to do being the director?
Oh man, glad you asked that. It's a lot of tiring nights, a lot of things, but mainly what we focus on is being the life coaches. Meaning we don't do X's and O's. We can, but we don't do X's and O's. We're not teaching you drills, anything like that. But we're teaching you how to develop, how to be a young man to a man, how to develop your mind, how to sharpen yourself into becoming the whole man, the Christian man, the man that we know that you will be to be successful in life. And we always know that success is measured by each individual. But at Arkansas, we focus on little things like contract reading, or we work on rental agreements, different things from the widest range of things to the not widest range of things. But we pretty much serve our guys at every capacity possible that's not X's and O's. So a lot of guys call us Unc, a lot of guys call us Pops, some guys call us Big Brother. And it don't matter what it is, Will. We take pride in figuring out the answer, the solution, and helping our guys no matter what. I really believe outside of player development, my job as a human, as a man, is to serve. It don't matter at what capacity. So I take that same mindset into what we're doing in player development, and our jobs and our staff is to serve. And it don't matter what it look like.
I love what you said right there, because it doesn't matter what it looks like. And that goes back with one of my favorite quotes by John Gordon, which says, "You don't have to be great to serve, but you have to serve to be great."
That's right.
And I think that's awesome. That's pretty much what you get to do every day for a college football team.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I know there's been a lot that's played into where you're at right now, whether it's growing up or playing high school, college football, now being here. Can you kind of take us back to where it all started?
Let's go then. Okay. Small kid. I was born and raised in a small town called Thompson, Georgia. From that point, single parent household. My father was around, he just wasn't around, So I ended up being raised and I raised with my family, my brothers. I was raised in a huge background, huge village. So aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters, everyone pretty much looked out for everyone, neighborhood guys. So kind of something you won't see anymore nowadays. But from that point, went on and started playing sports. Fell in love with soccer first. Big time soccer guy, still love it to this day. Actually had some D1 scholarships to play soccer. It was my first love. I spent a lot of time training in soccer throughout middle school and high school. Once I got to high school, really they wanted me to focus on one sport, which was football, but I decided to not. I decided to still focus on both and end up getting pretty good offers in soccer and football. Became a really big name across the state of Georgia. I think I was number 1 or number 2 top-ranked linebacker coming out in the country.
Wow.
Played in a lot of all-star games. decided to go to the University of Georgia. It wasn't my first choice. Actually, I always take that back. I always wanted to be a dog. I always wanted to be a dog. Just like growing up in Oklahoma or growing up in Arkansas, you want to be those guys. I wanted to be a Georgia Bulldog. But Auburn offered me first, and then Florida came in like a thief in the night, and they came hard, man. And just so happened, Georgia came in, and they came in early sophomore year. But I just kept visiting and, kept praying, kept watching their program. My senior year, they had 2 senior linebackers and 1 junior linebacker. So they ran a 4-3 system, and all 3 of their linebackers left. Once they left, I was like, it's open reign, baby. Here we go. I got to go to Georgia, right up the street. It was 60 miles from my house, door to door. I went on to Georgia. Man, I was telling Cortez this morning, the FCA director, man, it's some of the best days of my life. I enjoyed every minute of it. While I was down there, I majored in consumer economics. From that point, went to the NFL. I had a not-for-long league record for NFL. That's exactly what it means, not for long. So I did that. I ended up getting out of the NFL, guys. My story kind of this is what player development. I didn't have player development in college, so this is the reason why I love it and do it so much now. When I was at Georgia, only thing I did was I focused on football. I didn't shake the hands. I didn't do the networking. I didn't do any of those things because I knew my aspiration and my main concern was to be an NFL player. Well, I didn't prepare for life after ball. So once life after ball in the NFL ended, I had a gap, a huge gap. Well, I had a void where I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I went back home with Mom. She basically said, you can't stay here for I'm used to you not being here. Trying to figure out career-wise and, trying to find those things, trying to tap back into the resources that I had at Georgia. Didn't make many resources because I didn't shake those hands. I didn't do the internships. I didn't build the relationships with the people that I should have. So that's no fault or shame at Georgia. That's a fault and shame at Danny. That was my fault because I only focused so much on football. So once my void hit, I went on to decided to get in corporate America, became an insurance adjuster, got in property adjusting, and realized, Will, man, I made so much money doing house claims on sudden and accidental losses or catastrophic losses or whatever loss it was from natural disasters. And I was like, man, I'm making more money than I was in the NFL. Like, how is this possible? That's when I realized, too, that there's a lot of jobs out there for everyone to fulfill whatever desires they have and what they're becoming. From that point, my aunt was an AD, and I call her my aunt. She was just like, she helped raise me. She was the athletic director for all the Atlanta public school systems. She was one of them. And she was really wanted me to get back into the football realm. At that time, Will, I was mad at the world because the NFL they didn't pick me back up, or I got cut and couldn't get back on the team. So I finally went and became a counselor, and I was doing adjusting on the side, insurance adjusting on the side. And from that point, they pretty much forced me to get into coaching. I got into coaching, and I said I didn't want to do it. And the very first day out there, I could not go back, because I knew that was player development, trying to develop these young men, not on the field, but just tapping into their lives off the field. Every single player, no matter where you go, has a story. Trying to understand that story, trying to understand that secret, trying to help them with their problems, man, it's a full-time job, 24/7. So I took pride in that. And then I went from high school, went to college coaching to South Dakota. From South Dakota, went to Point University down in Georgia. From Point University, came to Arkansas.
Wow. That's crazy. And what I really took out of that is you had a job where like the money was good and everything, but your aunt was the one that was telling you that
that's right,
you need to be back in football.
That's right.
So what was the point that really made you like realize that, man, I just can't be away from football?
The void. So once I had the void of getting cut and not understanding what tomorrow was, not understanding that ball was no more, that gave me the drive and the inspiration I needed to when I started coaching and doing player development, to understand that I'm not the only one struggling with a gap. I'm not the only one struggling with a void. So how can I help people that when their playing careers are done, that they're on to their next careers? Because it's career after career after career. It's never just one career. LeBron James is LeBron James, greatest basketball player ever. But when it's done, LeBron got to do something else. What's his next career? What's the next task? What do you do? He's not going to just play golf every day. He got to do something career-wise. So I realized that, and that's what got me into player development and coaching and understanding that aspect of it.
That's awesome. And I think that that's so important, too, for anyone in their life because, like, whether you're in a season where life is just amazing or you're in a season where it's about as bad as it gets, I think finding that why of what truly keeps you going every day, like Danny said, feels like his job every day is to serve, whatever it is that helps keep you going, where you can make whatever you're doing about someone else. Once you find that, you'll feel like, man, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that.
And I know you said that, man, when you got back into football, you realized this is truly where I'm supposed to be. Were there some people that truly helped you like gain a love for football growing up?
Yeah, so being in Thompson, Georgia, it's a small town, but it's football crazy. Meaning, when football Friday night happens, the town shuts down. Yeah. Listen, I know this is illegal because I learned out it was illegal later on. We got out of class every Friday at noon. It's impossible to get out of class at noon to meet all those APR rules or whatever those rules are. But our town got out at noon and our town shut down at 3 p.m. because at 7:30 it was kickoff time and it was go time. So between my little league coaches, my high school coaches, my family members that all played sports, especially my brother, my mom who was a sports fanatic, football fanatic, they all was inspirations in my lives. My teammates, they were, especially growing up in my hometown, it was like you knew other things, but you didn't realize it was other things out there because they took so much pride, or we took so much pride in the community and playing sports. Like when we traveled to different stadiums or different places, like 1,000 people didn't travel now. The entire town shut down and went. Like it was like a call of you had to go. Like if anybody want to rob Thompson, the best time to do it is on away games, on a Friday night. Like you get whatever you want. But I think that's what's so cool about that hometown and my heroes and people who inspired me to keep doing what I do in sports.
That's awesome, and I think that's one of the most special bonds you can have. Because I've talked to guys that are playing at the college, even professional level, and they still talk about high school football.
Oh yeah.
Being in class with the same guys you're going to play with on Friday nights.
Yeah.
Seeing people in the grocery store that they'll be there on Friday nights no matter where it's at.
Absolutely.
And I think that's just such a special bond that just can never be taken away.
Can't. You're right.
And then going off in high school, you mentioned how you're one of the top linebackers in the country being recruited. So I'm sure that you had letter after letter and coach after coach contacting you. What did that kind of look like?
Man, that process was crazy, man. That was right around the time cell phones was really picking up really good, 2002.
Okay,
so
yeah.
2002.
That's when I was born, yeah.
That was right around the time, 2000, 2001. It was really picking up. But you had the landlines, and coaches would call, I promise you, back to back to back to back to back every single night. And you knew you couldn't shut your recruiting process down as a player because you wanted to see everything and you wanted to hear every coach and you wanted to be fair to everybody because you wanted to pick the right institution. Because you being a first-generational guy that go to a Division I school, you wanted to make sure it was the right one. So that process, man, we still got books and my brother kept books and photo albums and crates of letters. Man, I bet you if you count, it's well over 10,000 letters. Like,
wow,
easy.
Yeah.
Because I think about how we send out mail here at Arkansas now. Now I see like, yeah, you can get 10 to 20,000 pieces of mail because we send out mail every day here. But it's something special to be sought after that much to be thought about and someone to really want you to come to the institution that you really think you can make an impact, and to see some of those letters come in with the hog on them, with the G on it, with the T for Tennessee on it, the Florida State Seminole head on it, man, it gives you goosebumps even thinking about it still to this day, because you start thinking about where you came from in little town Danny, who you are then, and you're like, man, I don't know if I can do that. I watch these guys on TV. They all look like, Goliath.
Yeah.
I don't know if little David over here can handle that, but through and through, man, it worked, and it's a great process.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm sure that was a little overwhelming at times, but I'm
man,
sure it was
yes.
definitely a special moment just to be recognized for hard work and just being able to do what you're able to do. And I know in that process you talked about how the first couple schools that offered you were like Auburn and Florida, but eventually you ended up going to Georgia. And I know you talked about one of the main reasons was because you saw an opening at linebacker.
Yep.
But was there any other reasons, like with relationships or anything that brought you there?
Well, definitely was the relationship. So once you get in this process, man, you really start doing it. I always thought most schools are interchangeable. You know what I'm saying? You got a few guys that do things the different ways, the Alabamas and Georgia versus Arkansas and Tennessee, but they're still interchangeable. You're trying to build relationships with coaches and then also build that bond with the university. When I decided on Georgia, I had already had a special bond with Georgia. I was born in Georgia. I was a Georgia Bulldog anyway. My rec team, we were the Falcons, but at the same time, we were the Falcons/Georgia Bulldogs, So I was huge about that. Rodney Garner is a defensive line coach. He was recruiting me very hard. He's the D-line coach now still at Tennessee. Brian Van Gorder, he was my linebacker coach. He was, and I tell him this to his face, the worst recruiter ever in all of college sports. But, man, what a great man. Like a great, great man. He taught me so much on what it means to be yourself and not be anybody else. And then also John Fabris. Learned a lot from him. He recruited me well. Still to this day, me and my mom try to figure out how did we let this guy in our house, because he was on the field. He was a whole different person, man. We was totally different. And then finally, man, once you meet the head of a program, and I think you can see that too, once you meet the head, the guy that's in charge of a program, you can feel it. You can feel his spirit. You can feel his energy. You can feel what he's about. You know what I'm saying? If he's a godly man, everything that he's entailed, you can feel it with his family, his wife, how he treat his people, how he treat his staff. And it gives you goosebumps to just think about, man, this is a true man of God. That Mark Richt was a true leader of men. So to just even see that and know that and be around that, you'd be like, wow, this is unheard of, unbelievable. Don't get me wrong. You can see it with, at the time, Bobby Bowden, Florida State. You can see it with other people. But for Coach Richt and myself at that time, that bond, man, he helped create the guy who I am today. He is a huge chunk of the man that I am today that helped me realize, be a forgiving man. God was a forgiving being. So why can't you forgive, Danny? Or when you make a mistake, get back up, keep working. There's no such thing as a problem that can't be fixed. He believed that, little things like that. So he worked me through a lot of stuff, man, and he was one of the best people you'll ever be around.
And I think, I've never met Coach Richt, but anyone I've ever heard that's talked about him has said those exact things, like godly man that's going to put the person above the player.
Yep.
And I think that's awesome, because I even remember last year when I had the opportunity to speak to the freshmen before I spoke, you got up there and you're even talking about lessons that Coach Richt taught you. And now you're able to apply those to these guys when they come in here. And I think it's just a great testament of how all those coaches you mentioned at Georgia and the relationships, and even that one coach that you talked about that is the worst recruiter, but still cared about you so much. I think that's a great testament to how a life impacts a life that impacts a life. And you just truly never know who God will put in your life.
Correct.
But when you serve others and put others first, like, God can do immeasurably more than we could think or imagine. As it says in one of my favorite verses, Ephesians 3, verse 20. And when you start off and when you're talking about Coach Richt, you talked about how, man, he was a godly man that kind of helped your faith. And so, where does kind of like your faith journey come from? Because something I've always been impressed with you is, and it's a public university. Like people don't have to pray, they don't have to like acknowledge God. But anytime I've spoken to the freshmen, every time after, you always lead them in prayer before they leave. So where does that kind of come from?
Man, I'm a good, like I said, I'm a old soul, old spirit. But my mom, grandma, they were praying women. My community is a praying community. We pray, we go to church. So I grew up Kojic, Church of God in Christ, Pentecostal. And one thing, if you ever get a chance to learn about Kojic, we go to church 8 days a week. Not 7. Oh, wow. We go 8 days a week, 2 times on Sunday and every other day after that. But, man, I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I learned my biblical skills and everything from there. I learned who is my provider, my protector. I've learned who I lean on in times of trouble. I learned who wrap their arms around me and protect me at all ways, So growing up in that aspect, being a religious guy with my mom and stuff, I understand who's the Alpha and Omega. I understand that. So I'm going to take it everywhere I go, because I do understand after this life I'm trying to get to another place in my aspects, that I want to get to another place so I can be with them again. So I'm big in religion. I'm always keep God first. And mine started back when I was, before I even got here,
That's awesome. I think that's so important too, because you're with the freshmen almost as much as anyone when they first get here. So just to have a player development guy that's helping them with stuff off the field, putting the main thing as the main thing, putting Christ first, and then showing them, okay, put Christ first, and then live as he did. Serve, be in the community, then make no excuses. Because, I think a great example is like Christ on the cross is the best example ever of making no excuses. And that's something I think is awesome about your role and how you're able to impact these guys on a daily basis.
Thank you.
And kind of going on with your relationship with Christ, has there been some times in your life where you felt like, man, I don't know where my life is going, but you just saw God's hand on it?
Oh, absolutely, man. I don't think no one could do this job or be where you at. Or I couldn't sit in this chair right now without some transgressions, some downfalls, some shortcomings. But knowing, even when I didn't even know or thought about, that God had his hand on me, from being angry with him, trying to question him about everything because of, death. Now, understanding that at times, for even questioning him for, I don't understand how I'm not in the NFL when I know I'm better than half these people in here, trying to understand things about life and things like that. But being in cars, man, going crazy amount of speeds and flipping the cars, getting in wrecks and God having his hand around you, shielding you from hurt, harm, and danger, no hurt, harm, and danger on the field and off the field. So, man, look, he's been had his hand on me since before I got here. And I've been giving him praise and thanks ever since, and I never stopped doing it. So,
yeah, and I think it's awesome about what you said right there about like the NFL and the just different experiences where you thought, man, I thought this was supposed to go this way. Because I feel like everyone listening to this and everyone on this earth has gone through something like that, where you think, oh, man, this isn't the plan I had. It's going to go this way, right? Then it just doesn't. But that's what I love about that relationship with Christ and just the words he tells us, because there's a verse I love in John 13, verse 7, which I've heard Jalen Hurts say a lot, which he's a great example of this. But in John 13, verse 7, it says, these things are happening to us now. We don't understand. But when you put our trust in Christ, you'll understand later.
That's right.
And I think that's a great testament to like where you're at right now in your role, because being able to look back at your playing career, you had a good playing career at Georgia, and then see how you were able to find a career that you were able to find success in. But then you ended back up at the thing that really set your heart on fire.
That's right.
Like help get you up every day with joy and doing it not for yourself but for the people around you. And I think that's a great testament to that verse, and just what anyone listening to this, just no matter what your circumstance looks like or what you think your life should go or how you think it should go, when you put your trust in Christ, he always has a plan that's much bigger than
Hey.
anything we can imagine.
Amen. You know, DJ Khaled said it best. He said, God's plan.
Yes, sir.
It
Yeah.
ain't your plan. It ain't my plan. It's God's plan.
Yeah.
So if you follow the plan, his plan for you, you'll be successful. And so, like, again, we said earlier, success is not measured on money or wealth or fame or any fortune, anything like that. Success is built in your heart. What are you doing? What satisfies you? What gives you gratitude at night? What lets you lay your head down and let your mind turn off at night where you can completely get rest? What gives you gratification that makes you smile every single day? That's success to me. I don't look for success. Yeah, I got to have a little money, want a little money.
Yeah.
I do that. You know, I got to provide and protect, want to do that. But every single day I go home and I tell my wife, she asked me the same thing, how was your day? I said, great. One, she said, why you always say that? I said, well, one, God woke me up and got me back here. 2, he put food on my table. 3, he put clothes on my back. 4, you're fully protected and taken care of. And my kids they're healthy, filthy healthy. Everybody are healthy. And then 5, I'm doing something every single day that I go to work and I don't call it a job. I don't call it a career. I tell people all the time, man, I think I'm just hanging out, man. I get to hang out with 18 to 22-year-old superstars, and I get to impact their lives. That's going to impact them for the rest of their life, and that just get me fired up to understand that I'm trying to make a change in the world and helping guys one person at a time. So I don't, success to me, that's success to me. Now, it looks different in everybody's eyes, but that's success to me, and I get excited about it.
That's awesome, and I think that's so great because just anyone listening to this, whether you're doing something right now that you love or not, man, find something that you're doing every day that, man, you don't even see as a job.
Correct.
Set your heart on fire, and it's truly about those around you. And then kind of go along with that, whether you're at Arkansas for the rest of your career or you're just here for a few more years, however long it is, if you could be remembered for one thing or a few things, what would that be?
That's a good one. That's a really good one. That my time here was well spent. He was always positive. He brought the energy, and he impacted lives the godly way. You know, I want people to remember me as a servant. I want people to understand that what I have, I give it to you right now. I give you all my last because I really believe that's what God ordained us to do and ordained me to do. So if I had to be remembered next year or 2 years or 5 years from now, I want people to know that, Danny was a servant leader here at the University of Arkansas.
That's great, and I think you're doing a great job. I always tell people the guy that can't see people is a good gauge for people that bring energy because my hearing's a little better. So I always know where you're at practice. But kind of wrapping up today, being the Rise Above podcast, obviously not everyone in life, it just feels like they're just rising above. There's going to be someone listening to this podcast today that feels like they're stuck, or maybe a week, a month, or a few years down is going to come across a situation where they just feel like they're stuck and it's hard for them to rise above. What's an encouraging message you'd have for them?
I thought about this for a little quick minute as you was talking and a little before this. And I keep going back to, I talk a lot, so I got a lot of sayings I can tell people we stay on this thing all night. But I go back to this thing that we used to get together before every game at University of Georgia, and we would all go in the shower together, fully pass and helmet on, right before we took the field. And we would get as tight as we could with each other, and we would turn off the lights. And we would clear our mind, our thoughts, and we'd close our eyes. And one guy would say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And you would repeat it. And you would echo it as loud, and you could really feel it. So, and right after you finish saying that 3 times, you would say, if God is for us, who can be against us? So if I could encourage you today or tonight or whoever listens to this podcast, I would say, I can do all things, or you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And if God is for you, who can be against you?
Man, that's awesome. And, man, those simple words, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Well, even when you're in the hardest times, remember that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And if God is for you, who can be against you? And what's awesome about that is both those quotes and scriptures has nothing to do with anything about your situation,
That's right.
but everything to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's awesome about your role with player development, because it's just teaching guys controllables, things they can control for the rest of their life, their attitude, effort.
That's right.
How you can make no excuses and truly rise above no matter what you face in life. When you know that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, and know that, what was the second one?
If God is for you.
If God is for you, who can be against
That's
you?
right. Mm-hmm.
And man, we can't thank you enough for being on with us today, Danny.
Appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for having me, man. Anytime you want me back, I'd be glad to. I won't charge you this time, but we'll
Yeah.
let's play. Man, I wanted to say this before we get off. I'm proud of you, Will. I want you to keep blessing people. I want you to keep encouraging people. I want you to keep this going, man. If you touch one person, that's enough. So don't ever give up. Don't ever quit. You haven't this far, so don't even get the doubt come in your mind. When it do, I already say our saying now. We got a saying, if God is for us, who can be against us, So get it out your mind. Continue doing great things, and you and everyone that works in your podcast. Man, I love it. I can't wait to hear this one and hear the next ones after that. Many blessings to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you so much. And anytime I talk about the Artsville football program, you're always one of the first guys I mention, and you're someone that 20 years down the road I'll still be talking about just because of the positive impact you've had on me.
Thank you.
And know that you can catch the Rise Above podcast on any platform you listen to podcasts on, or on YouTube, or you can follow the account on Instagram. And know that no matter the storm you face today or for the rest of your life, when you put your hope in something greater than you, you can always rise above the storms. We will catch you guys next week.